think the one about the recall timeline is interesting because, an argument that I've heard in opposed to the recall is this notion that recall elections are inherently like shitty. Like they're just kind of like, oh, they feel like cheating, or they feel like people who are opposed to the candidate to begin with are trying to cheat and basically have a recall election and get what they wanted to begin with, even though they lost a couple of years ago.
Yeah, well, let's get into it then. So should we change the rules to limit the period during which the voters could recall a city official? And then there's another important caveat here. When an official is recalled, should the person, to prevent the person appointed to fill that vacancy from running as candidate. So if Chesa was recalled, should the person that the mayor puts in be banned from running in that same position the following election? That's a big rule.
I like that.
That's pretty huge.
Why would they want to do that?
I don't know.
Interim and then.
Yeah, interim, you're done. You're not going to run.
Yeah, because usually when the interim person is appointed, usually because they have already been doing the job, they have name recognition.
Right.
It's easy for people who don't really know much about that position to just be like, oh, I'll just vote for the person who's at the top of the list.
Yeah. So that'll go to your point, because somebody didn't want the mayor to like have undue influence on.
If you don't agree with the mayor or their stance on certain things, then you might not want their candidate. Plus, it's like, I don't know, it feels a little gross. It feels like the mayor is suddenly handing out this position. If it's temporary, then it's like, oh, then they're only in there for a little bit, so it's whatever.
Then they'll just have two people lined up.
It'll just go into their calculations, I guess.
Yeah.
But you would negate that advantage, the incumbent's advantage.
So there's currently a grace period.
Okay, but
6 months. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. But what if you have let's say we call Chaser, right? The person would have 2 years in that office. So what wouldn't you want like the most qualified person to fill the last 2 years versus some random?
Like the first year, you're just kind of getting used to everything, and then it's like second, third year. That's when you actually do stuff.
And then it's time to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. That just makes those 2 years like just waste time.
Right.
Absolutely waste time, which kind of sucks.
It's cool. We love wasting time.
That's cool. Oh yeah. Hey, they get paid a lot of money too. Whoever these positions.
Get it back home.
I think those positions are untaxed too.
No,
the mayor.
No, their income gets taxed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought, because I know that some government is tax exempt.
They are also those positions are also exempt from Social Security benefits. So FICA taxes. If they don't pay the FICA taxes, then they don't get Social Security. I don't know what positions that applies to. Usually it's
because I don't pay Social Security.
Usually it's like fire and police.
Oh, really?
But anyways.
So specifically, this says like no person may start a recall if the elected officials has held office for less than 6 months, or if their term's going to end within 6 months.
Yeah, that's how it is now.
Yeah, that's how it is.
So
There's grace period
to 12.
At least 12 months.
Yeah.
And you can start a recall.
Yeah.
on both ends, 12 months. So there's only a 2-year window
Yeah.
instead of a 3-year window.
So you want to have strong feelings on? Let's focus on that part of the question for the first half of the question. Strong feelings, going from 6 to 12 months.
On both ends.
Yeah, both ends. Yeah.
Is that too much?
Is that even a big difference?
Do you feel like that will just give the green light to politicians to just do what they want and face no accountability? They're still going to face some
12 months,
unless it's only a 2-year term.
It's like such a small difference.
I feel like 6 months is really short.
Yeah,
true.
Very
But
short.
were any of these recalls within the 6 months? I don't think so. Like Chesa wasn't 6 months. School board, I don't think it was. Was it 6 months? Maybe.
Back end.
Yeah.
because
Like how many people are actually being recalled within 6 months? That's the question. Like I feel like
As
it's
soon
very
as the
small.
6 months is up, they're being recalled.
And if you wanted to recall, you just wait 12 if that were to change.
Yeah.
So I don't think that would change.
well, because you have to give the person a chance to prove themselves. The 6
Yeah.
months probably is just enough time to create an idea and get it approved.
Yeah.
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 The moment approved is 6
But who-
months, and then you
yeah.
can recall it.
Yeah,
But
for
who
6
was
months,
actually-
you as the person who's just been elected, you're dealing with the fallout of the previous person's
You're cleaning.
decisions.
Yeah.
You're cleaning the house.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So
Like
if they
theoretically,
fucked up-
that's true. But how many people are actually being recalled within 6 months? I don't think anybody is.
All of them.
Well, then I think that's where the second part of the agreement plays in. Because
Yeah.
personally, I'm for the first part where you want to extend it to 12 months.
Mhm.
But I'm sort of against the second part,
Really?
which is that the person who's appointed to fill a vacancy
Should
cannot
be-
be a candidate for the following election.
Mm.
I I'm more the opposite, where I think the 12 months, like when I first read 12 months, I was like, well, that is kind of a lot. But now I'm thinking it's less than it was. But the whole thing of the candidate who's being appointed not being able to run for a future election in that office, I think that's a good thing to do, because then it makes it less of a what's the word?
Free job.
A free gimme that the mayor then has, this political chip that they can use.
It's not. I think in San Francisco, it's not that big of a gimme though. You know, Chase Bodin's position, right? The mayor appointed Susie Loftus, and people didn't like that. So okay, before the Chase election, there was a period in time where we didn't have a DA because the DA went to LA. Guess gone. But anyway, so the mayor appointed this lady, Susie Loftus, to be the DA for a few months, and then she lost her election because people didn't like that.
The mayor had
Right.
appointed her.
So I don't think it's a guarantee.
It's more of an indictment of the mayor than Susie Loftus.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
my assumption. When it
Yeah.
happened. But I don't.
So I don't know. Does that?
I think I
change
just
anything?
want that interim position to be as non-partisan, non-political as possible, and like having that incentive, having that carrot at the end of the stick, be like, hey, you can run for this position, and you're already in the position, so you have a huge advantage. I don't think that's a good thing to just be giving out, being appointed by a mayor when it should be decided on by the voters, ultimately.
Yeah, but I think what you're I think I agree with that idea that
Yeah.
We want elections to be fair.
Right.
Like people should decide them, not officials appoint them. But I think your sort of argument is like rests upon the idea that elections are inherently unfair. That a person who fills a vacancy would almost be guaranteed the following election, but I don't think that's the case.
I think it is.
So yeah.
I
So
think it's because the local election and local elections, people don't pay attention to local elections. They usually just check off the first name in the box.
yeah.
Right?
So
unless it's a high profile thing, like this recall election is slightly more high profile. I see people in the streets holding up the signs and shit. But most candidates, it's just like, yeah, who does my party endorse? Who's a name that I can recognize?
So it comes down to, on this question, your optimism or belief in the power, the will of the
I'm not
voters.
trying to be cynical. I'm just like, from what I've seen and from what I've heard of the statistics behind elections, incumbency bias is big.
Yes.
And it's bigger for local officials than it is for, say, the president.
Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting with the local. I just gave you an example recently. Susie Loftus, yeah.
Yeah. But,
locally.
Yeah, that's fine.
You know,
that's one counterexample.
Yeah.
It's one counterexample.
Okay, what if we take the example that, let's say that the person who fills the vacancy is someone very capable.
Yeah.
Let's just imagine someone very capable, but they can't run because of this law.
I think it will encourage filling that position with an interim who's like an older person, like an emeritus person who's been, somebody who's been around and is well respected on both sides. Because right now the incentive is to appoint somebody who's up and coming.
Right.
You know, to acquire, so that the mayor can acquire an ally to be like, hey, I put you in this seat. Now you have a huge advantage in going into this election. So quid pro quo, or you better help me out.
So maybe like you're saying, like it's better off if the mayor asked the previous.
No, not the previous person. Maybe just like somebody who's older, well respected, and has no skin in the game. That's what I would prefer from an interim. Whatever.
Okay, but counterpoint, right?
Yeah.
Society has a lot of problems. We need to be solving problems. We can't be wasting time with some fool in office who just wants to retire and get a paycheck.
Yeah. I guess.
What do you mean?
I mean, like, I don't know. I
Because that's like way too.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't want to say
I'm going to
conservative.
turn it
I
around.
was
I'm going to
just
turn
like,
it around.
That's what you're saying.
No,
okay,
what
my
you're
bad. That's
saying-
what you're saying.
What you're saying is, what I'm saying is that if we appoint somebody who is like not as biased, if they're right now, it's like there are so many calculations that are made, like who am I going to appoint because it has such consequence. With this new system, it'll have less consequence. That interim appointment will have less consequence because it's like they can't even run anymore. So what's the point of whoever they appoint?
I see.
You know what I mean? So it will
Sounds
create
like
less friction.
well,
Because
about friction, but I'm saying
there's less political calculus that goes into that decision.
it's like a
under this new
gamble or
system.
like a risk, right? Are you more risk averse? You'll say, oh, just play it out, wait till the next election. Or maybe if we trust the mayor because we voted the mayor in, and that's kind of one of the main reasons we, executives have a lot of appointing ability.
Right.
Then we trust the mayor, and the mayor's gonna pick somebody.
They're gonna pick somebody, and then suddenly it's like, oh, this is the mayor's candidate, and suddenly this position where there was an appointee is not a truly unbalanced position because there's this one juggernaut who is appointed by the mayor, and it depending upon how suddenly that position becomes a proxy for the mayor. You know, like
Yes.
what happened with Susie. She was a proxy for the mayor,
Yeah.
and it's like, do
And
you
then
support
what?
the mayor,
And
do
then
you
what
not?
did the voters do?
They did not support the
Because the voters are smarter than you give them credit for.
I'm not
Maybe,
saying that
maybe.
that's no, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that that's like whether or not they opposed or were in favor of that thing. I just
Mm.
mean that like suddenly it's not about the competency of that person in that position.
So you're
It's not
saying
about two different candidates.
it's not fair to that person as well.
It's not fair to that person as well because like
Right,
suddenly
but then
they
who's
have-
gonna
they're in
take the
this
job?
position. So,
You're gonna have
some
some-
other older guy who wants a
Right?
paycheck.
So
Like
we're
you
just
said.
we're just gonna pay the guy to sit in the chair and not die.
Somebody
which is-
who is well respected, you know, in
Well,
whatever field. This is not just for the DA.
Well, you
Mm.
think of Bryce, I'm gonna add something into this. Cool. This also could be a weapon for the mayor.
How?
If he appointed to someone that he disliked,
Oh.
position for 3 months.
Okay, but then
You know, but
That's
the person who gets appointed could just be like, nah,
they have to
bro,
accept it,
leave.
though.
Well,
They have to
then,
accept it.
then he had to. Well, then he had the power to resign. So if he don't want it, he had to resign, right?
What are you talking
Or,
about?
or he
No,
just denied it.
No, yeah, they can just deny it. When the mayor appoints somebody, they have to be like, do you want to be appointed? They can't force them into accepting the job. Nobody can be forced into accepting a job unless you work for the cartel.
Or you're a slave.
Yeah, yeah. it's like-
Well, welcome to America.
I want to play out. I want to play out the scenario then.
Yeah.
Shoot.
So okay, let's say this law does pass.
Mhm.
You cannot run for election if you were appointed during the recall.
Mhm.
So I like the idea. Okay, then it would be someone who doesn't want to be elected. It would be someone who knows what they're doing, and it does not. It's like basically not like trying to do this for political gain.
Right. Makes it less
Then
biased.
what would they do when they're in office?
They would do what they're
Fucking-
supposed to
They'll
do.
kiss the babies and fucking I don't know.
Why would they kiss the baby? He's not running for anything.
Hey, if I didn't have no responsibility, I just meet people, shake
They
hands.
still have
fucking-
responsibility. They don't want to like lose their
Barely.
job.
I mean,
But
The mayor
Oh, yeah,
has an
sure.
incentive to choose somebody who is competent, not necessarily somebody who will help their political chances in the future or become a political pawn. They have the incentive to choose somebody competent because if they put in somebody who's just a bum off the street, doesn't know what they're doing, then suddenly it's like, wait, why did you appoint this random dude? You know?
Yeah.
They
Well,
share
the same. Yeah, they have an incentive to pick someone
The flip side,
competent either way.
the flip side is that currently, why did you choose this bum off the street? Oh, because now they have a better chance of being elected for the actual thing and becoming my political ally. You know? But if it's like you appoint somebody who doesn't have that carrot, who doesn't have that incentive, it's like they're going to be a non-partisan actor, supposedly.
Yeah,
That's what it encourages.
they would be more willing to take risks, kind of like how people at the end of their terms.
That's true.
Yeah, to
give no
actually
fucks.
play out how they wanted to play out instead of doing all this political calculus.
Yeah.
I think there's too much sort of political expediency, and this is big picture. I feel like there's among politicians in this country in particular, there's too much political expediency. There's this notion of like getting elected is way more important than passing any sort of legislation that could help anybody.
Because I mean, it is very difficult to get elected.
Yeah. Sure. But like, why do you get elected? So you can change things for the better.
Mhm.
But people have that flipped. People are like, oh, I change things for the better so I can get elected. It's
I don't
like,
know how this
it's the other way around.
government system works. So the district attorney general don't have a slash,
What?
Have a what?
like a slash, like a vice or a assistant general. So
There's a
if he
deputy
get-
DA.
Yeah,
Oh,
if
yeah,
he
yeah.
get recalled it, then it's just like the president of the United States
Oh,
assessed it.
Yeah.
The vice president step up for the remaining of the term.
I-
Why are we creating problems in America? U.S. so stupid and something.
Well, it's like-
we don't have a problem. We just want to generate a problem.
so
It's like,
stupid.
Well, that's just
Say
all
it,
the time.
2022.
No, I think that's just how it gets done. Usually, it's like the mayor appoints replacement instead of, and
I mean,
the DA.
we could
as an
change the
acting-
rule. We could change the city charter and say, hey, the second in command will
Yeah.
become.
Yeah,
You'll just have the same problem. The second in command will be now politicized. Like, who's going to be second in command?
Right. Yeah.
So it'll be like the vice president. So
Yeah.
you'll have the same issue. It'll be politicized.
Yeah. It'll be a heartbeat away from the DA's office.
Well, let me take a step back and say, first of all, recalls, they don't happen that often, and successful recalls even way less often. So I know there was a lot in the last couple of years. Yeah, six total successful recalls.
There
So
is.
so this don't even happen that often.
In San
Yeah.
Francisco.
So one of the arguments saying, oh, recalls are being abused, they're happening left and right just because we don't like who's in office. I always say that that's not really that that accurate as far as being abused, because it's really not easy to get a recall on the freaking thing. You have to like hire people to stand outside Safeway and like get rejected by
Right.
Everybody, because hey, I was one of those people, so it's not fun. It's not easy to get a recall on the ballot. So
Right.
I'm personally not really too concerned about this whole recall process. Yeah, and I think the recalls that happened recently were
Flukes. I think they're
flukes, but also
pandemic-related flukes.
because there's like shit happening in real life that prompted, it wasn't just because,
Outrage.
I suddenly don't like JSI. It's because shit was happening on the streets that we needed to talk about this.
Yeah.
In the schools as well. The schools, there was actually real issues where kids weren't getting in classrooms, blah, blah, all this stuff. So, I mean, if we want
So
to,
the system works.
yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning on this. I don't know if folks agree or not.
Yeah, I think the way we have it now is fine. I think this alternative of prohibiting the appointee from running for that particular
Yeah.
office. I
It's
think
kind of
that's a
annoying
good
they
idea.
put like
I
two
that.
separate kind of questions.
Yeah, I wish they had
all
been
these
two separate things.
Yeah,
It's so annoying.
Part A, part B.
Anyway, yeah.
But I would prefer things being slightly better.
Mm.
And the whole 12-month thing.
Anyway, well, let's bring it to a close. We definitely didn't get like 100% certainty on our positions because